Modern Horizons 3 is just around the corner, but Cranial RAM has been pre-banned. Is that a first? Let's check it out. Hey guys, welcome back to Casting Commons, the show where we talk and discuss all things pauper. I am your host Teasdale, and this is my co-host, the Cranial RAM himself, Reese.
Hello.
Before we start, guys, do not forget to hit that like, subscribe, and follow button so you never miss an upload. It is also a great way to help the algorithm and gets us great exposure. Not like that. But it's also a great way to support us for absolutely free. So, pal, anything happened? Have we missed anything? Has it been a busy pauper week?
Well, yeah. I guess there's lots of stuff. Well, some main things to talk about in the news section. For me, I haven't played that much pauper, unfortunately. Most of my week has been taken up working on cars, whether unfortunate or fortunate, I'm not entirely sure. I did manage to get to F&M on Friday, as I was supposed to be going out, but that got cancelled last minute. So I grabbed Mono Blue Terror that I'd just built up. I thought I'll give that a whirl. The one with boomerangs in rather than snaps. And it played really well. I was quite impressed by how fun it was and how strong it felt as well. I played against FAMs and just turned 2 on the play boomerang and like their land, or like the play chancery on their turn 2, and you just boomerang it back. It's absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I can imagine it's pretty minging.
Yeah. But yeah, that was good. I ended up coming second. I lost to Pingerburn in like a really close game 3. I was basically a turn off killing them and the top vector burn spell, as Pingerburn does tend to do. But yeah, other than that, it felt strong, and I'm not surprised people have got back on Mono Blue Terror. Especially with the amount of control about just jamming hard to deal with 5/5s and delvers, and then spell piercing and boomerang and their answers seems like a pretty good place to be right now.
Yeah, definitely.
What about yourself?
I haven't done too much, to be fair. I recorded the Mono Red Cascade Tron deck, which is live, and you probably have seen. We did cover it last week. I think came 9th, was it, last week in one of the challenges. And that deck's just a great, absolute blast to play, to be fair. I definitely just enjoyed candy trailing into Maelstrom Colossus for that extra value.
Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah. And then after that, I wrote a write-up on Patreon about 10 decks that I recommend you should try day one for the release of Modern Horizons 3. I think some of them are just a bit out there, and it was more just interactions I wanted to highlight a bit. But of course, there is the standard ones with like Refurbished Familiar in there, and the Lizard combo, of course, is in there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think that's the one everyone's most excited for, isn't it? To see if that's like actually just legit or not.
Yeah, so I've built up a list what I think's interesting. Of course, I based it on the best combo deck of all, and it's got Mesmeric Fiend in, because why wouldn't it? But yeah, it seems pretty sweet. I'm definitely excited to try it later on this week when it's out.
Did you also put the new Eternal Witness combo in as well, and just go all in?
I didn't put the combo in, but I did actually put some Eternal Witness Evolution Witnesses in.
Yeah.
More just as a way to recur things. This is just the idea. I am excited. Obviously, Slitherhead made it into the deck as well. A card that I definitely wanted to try. So
I forgot that had been downshifted.
Just a nice way to just, my counter's started.
So
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, for 0 as well, isn't it? It's 0 to
Scavenge.
put the counter. Yeah. Sick.
So I'll probably be trying that at some point. I'm torn between that and Black White Blade at the minute, with the Refurbished Familiar as the first deck to try. So I know which one's more fun.
I know which one will get more clicks, but I also know which one's better.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm and ahhing between. Finding a win con's quite hard for that lizard combo deck as well.
What other than just the lizard?
Yeah, let's be honest. The lizard's never going to attack. It's always like you make him for a power guy, it's just gonna die. So
just give it trouble.
Yeah, but you have to actually.
As long as you're not against a black deck.
you have to go round and actually make a turn to be able to attack with it, and I just feel that's not gonna happen. I just know it's not gonna happen. So I did lean on makeshift munitions as a way to make you make infinite guys, and I was like, does make infinite guys, sack them all, and then you just infinite colorless mana, and then I was like, oh, you just shoot them with the other ones. I was like, okay, but I just.
But then you're 3-color rather than
exactly.
just green black. Yeah.
So. Yeah. So that's probably where we're at. We'll probably end up playing Lizard Combo, let's be honest. But I'll probably be 3 games in, BO3, and then like, oh god, screw this. But you never know. You never know. Do you want to move on to some news?
Yeah, go for it.
So we've got quite a bit of news. So we'll start with the tournament news. So Monarch, the event in Sheffield at Patriot Games, is coming at the end of this month on the 29th of June. I do recommend you obviously look into it, and if you can go, it will be a great event, greatly ran, and fellow listener and also content creator now, Nick's is been running it, looking at getting it sorted and all that sort of stuff. So I can tell you it will be a great event. So if you are interested, check out the description in the show notes or the description of the video and get your ticket. It'll be great. Other than that, obviously, if you want to check out any other events in the UK, I recommend following Pauper Dan on Twitter. He genuinely retweets a lot of the UK-based events, so we don't have to cover them all every single hour, because that would take up the whole podcast.
Yeah.
And then finally, the other big one for us is the LPI International League has begun, and Badger is the only event in the UK to host, only LGS in the UK to host it, and that event is on the 20th of July. So check that out on probably the Facebook groups for like Pauper UK, whatever, all that sort of stuff. And then
it's not far off now. That actually is it 10 days.
No.
So it'd be interesting to see what the turnout's like for that.
10 days. It's July.
Oh no,
it's July,
yeah, not June. Yeah. That's my bad. It's a long time.
Yeah,
you've got plenty of time to book your accommodation and go and attend.
Yes. So yeah, which it'll be pretty interesting to see how that ends up doing though. Definitely. Obviously being the only one in the UK to have this sort of, I think they end up getting like 3 buys or something like that to Pauper or something along them lines. So it'll be pretty cool to see what the turnout's like. Moving on to some more exciting news though, actual Pauper news. Cranial Ram on the 6th of June, which was last Thursday, just gone. Gavin released a video and article basically explaining their reasonings to pre-ban Cranial Ram before it is even come out legal. I believe this is basically the first time this has ever happened. Which the closest reference you could probably go to is when Pauper became an official format, when
and the stuff started on the ban list.
Yeah, and I think to be fair, the first card to start on that ban list was Cranial Plating.
Probably.
So
it was definitely one of them, I would say.
So which is pretty interesting. For though I'm not surprised, if in all honesty, that this has got pre-banned. It does have as they explain in the video, it has very similarities to the a lot of cards on the ban list. It is different, all that sort of stuff. It does work differently, so there is a world where they could have let it go. But I do think with the Creator Showdown, the Creator Showdown, which is the week after, which is a $5,000 tournament for the people in the content creator program, and also Paupergeddon is literally like they're both like 6 or 7 days after Modern Horizons 3 is released. I do feel like it was sort of like they were backed in a corner that way, and I think that they've come out on top overall for me. I don't know about yourself.
It'd be interesting to see. Obviously, like they could ban it and then let those 2 events happen and then unban it to see what it's like. Like there's more. They have more than the ability to do that. It's still a weird one for me. It's obviously it doesn't really play like Glitters or Cranial Plate and play because the equip cost is also 2. It's like a 4 mana play, whereas obviously the Glitters you just like plate that turn and then hit them with it. So it doesn't play. It's like a bit more of a grindy card, I would have said, but it still has obviously the ability to go so big. And like with the bridges, as we've covered like previously, it is probably just too good. But the bridges are probably just too good. So
Yeah, and then
it is a weird one, but yeah, I definitely think, like you said, saving those events from just potential every deck is cranial ram is definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to say that, and I imagine if they didn't have those events, I would imagine they just let it come into the format.
Mm.
I think it probably would have still ended up the same, ended up being banned. But I also think it's fine to let it in the format and then see what it's like. But ruining two big, like, obviously the content creator program ones, the showdown isn't going to be a massive event, but it's an event that obviously has pauper in it on the Friday and is going to have a Twitch broadcast of, see how Modern Horizons is impacting pauper. And you don't want it to look, when you're showcasing the format from a Magic Online perspective, to be, here's a bunch of cranial ram decks versing against each other.
Yeah.
And then also you don't want to ruin a giant 800 player event, 800 player plus event. So
yeah, so obviously it's an event you're trying to just get off the ground, and an event that's established as it will be a massive event. So you get hit from both angles, really, don't you?
Yeah, so I definitely do think that they came out on top, and I do agree once again with the end up banning Cranial Ram because of obviously bringing a lot of cards into Modern Horizons 3. However, yet again, in the article and the video, bridges were in a discussion. Yet again.
Yeah, I think as well, from a design point of view, all this could have just been avoided if you just make it uncommon.
Yeah.
Like Gavin mentioned in the article, well, we don't like to dictate what rarity cards are. Like this might be a common for limited. There's no way that's a common for limited. Like you don't need that to be a common to make your limited format work. Obviously they don't really, when they're designing sets, they don't really think about formats outside of standard if it's a standard set, and I guess modern for this, given it's a modern set. But that's literally one tweak and it would have saved all this faff.
True enough. But then again, they did say the tried lists with. Did they say the tried lists with Meridian Lands banned and the tried lists with Artifact Lands, the Modern Horizons 2 Bridges banned, and they still came out that Cranial Ram was too good and things like that with one or the other. And I'm like, it's a hard thing to tell, but ultimately,
I think again, as soon as you're trying to list with the Bridges banned, like the format will just adapt to destroy the fuck out of the Artifact Lands.
Yeah.
Like as soon as there's no bridges, the hate for the affinity mana base goes through the roof, and you can just absolutely obliterate it if you want to. So it's like, are you trying that list in the current format, or are you trying that list in a format that's easily going to adapt to that change? If every mono red deck is just, I'll put some 3 Gorilla Shams in my sideboard and I'll just kill every single land you play. Like your Cranial Ram's not going to do a lot.
True enough. But yet again, the bridges were in that discussion, and yet again, we'll probably get 3 months down the line when people are probably talking about banning probably refurbished Familiar, and yet again, bridges will probably in that conversation. Yet again. But here we are.
You think it'll be 3 months? That seems like a long time.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm being hopeful.
I was thinking after Pauper-geddon.
No.
When the top 8 of Pauper-geddon is all black, white, blade.
Well, we can see. We'll see. And then finally, my other thing of news that happened last week was, you may have seen it, you may not have seen it, but this is kind of why I want to highlight it. There was like an all-access content creator event thing where on Friday the 7th of June, was it? Friday the 7th of June, at 4 o'clock our time, basically a lot of the content creators who got into the content creator program got access to Modern Horizons 3 cards, and you could try, obviously, whatever format you end up playing, Legacy, Modern, Pauper, all that sort of stuff. And I do think this is a great idea, because I believe this is the first time they've done this instead of adding the pre-release, because the set for Modern Horizons 3 comes out probably today or tomorrow, depending on when this podcast's out. It comes out on the 11th. So I do believe this is the first time they've ever done this, but I also do think that it wasn't done that well. All I seen of this was you got the occasional video pop up or you got the occasional tweet saying this is the state of this format or this is the state of that format. And particularly for us, as a bit biased, like you got a bit more eyes on it with Modern, obviously, because there's a lot more people trying Modern. But for Pauper, it didn't seem like there was anybody trying it. And I'm not saying that's like right, but surely, regardless of what set and what program you're doing, surely you should have these content creators in for all avenues.
Was there any coverage, like official coverage for this?
Not that I've seen.
No. Because that seems like a very easy way to fix that problem. Is you've done, obviously, given a bunch of creators early access to stuff is really sweet, but you want everyone to be able to see that. So if they just like had a pauper event for those creators covered by the official Wizards account, then loads more people will see that. And then if you do the same for Modern, or do the Modern one first, giving it to Modern Horizons, and do a pop one after, like you get so much more eyes on that, and it would hype the set as well even more. It seems a bit backwards to just give all the creators cards and then just be like, here you go, just do something with them.
And that's what it kind of felt like. And I'm not saying like obviously these creators don't have, sometimes obviously some of them have got jobs, some of them have got lives, all that sort of stuff. Like you're not guaranteed to be able to make content, but surely they should be able to be pushing more. Like even if you have these content creator programs, I don't know how many people's in it, but say you have half a dozen of them play Pauper, or you have half a dozen of them play Modern, or however many it is, or Legacy. Like surely just have your lane and just have these video series. Like you could have, like as you say, like a stream, or you have to say that they have to, if they don't even stream live, why not just have them? They have to put videos out making these content on these dates. Like it's not hard. Like they don't have to play a league. They won't be playing a league. There's only 6 of them, or there's only 8 of them, or whatever. Just have them play games.
I think there is quite a lot of people with it though, right?
Yeah.
Content creators with it. So you could obviously give them all the accounts, run an event that is covered, and then just leave them the accounts to make their own content. And then you get the best of both worlds. But yeah, I was very much in the same boat as you, where I basically seen Mengu tweet, oh, look at this Kozilek's unsealing. It's really good in Modern Affinity. And I was like, oh, how's he got that card? And then I seen that was basically it. I knew Kali was on the program because he tweeted that he was on the program, but I didn't see him actually do anything.
I think I seen Weber make a video. I think Weber had a sneaky snacker video, but like again, that's one person in one division. Like, and do you know what I mean? You're very much narrowed down into that one video, which for that whole event, for the scene of Pauper, is not really it.
Yeah. And because they're not pushed, those videos are just going to get lost so quickly because the actual set comes out in a couple of days on Magic Online. So like that video is unique for 5 days or whatever. And then everyone can just make content anyway and it'll get lost. So that like to not get the eyes on the video immediately or the eyes on an event with those people in it, it doesn't really make much sense to me. Like
no.
It would boost the setup. It would boost the names of those people up that you obviously want to put the effort into because you've selected them for your content creator program. Because I imagine like there's quite a lot of people on that program. I haven't heard of half of them, but if they were playing in a creator event, I would then know who they were and check out the streams or check out the videos and whatever.
Yeah, I just think, because even looking at the blog where it was mentioned, it was basically, all it says is MTGO broadcast. It mentions the Creator Showdown with the list and times of when Pauper is, when Modern is, when the Seal Deck is. But then says, Content Creator Early Access. Grab the links from your Discord server in the Creator Content channel on Friday. And that's it. That's literally what it says. Like, there's no links to who's involved. There's no links to what formats people play or what formats they're trying. I just feel like this idea is fantastic. I agree with both the Creator Showdown and the early access, but I just feel like it definitely could be done better. 100 million times better.
The communication sort of reminds me of when, like, Maro will say something and it'll be in a Tumblr post.
Yeah.
And you're like, no one looks at Tumblr, like, why is this crucial piece of information in a Tumblr post?
Yeah.
It very much feels like you've not put enough effort into getting the communication out there, basically.
Yeah. And it'd have been great to see. It'd have been great to see all sorts of different decks that pauper con. Even, like, to be honest, even if all that was on there was modern because it's a modern set, I'd probably still watch it. I don't play modern. I haven't played modern in eons since Birtham Pod's been banned. Yet I'd still watch it because it's funny. It's interesting. It's hype.
I'm sort of in the same boat. Like, I seen Mengu tweet about that Kozilek's on sale, and I was like, oh, that's sweet. I want to watch him play this deck.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, that tweet was like ages ago. And then there's no event on now.
Yeah. Just odd. All round odd. And I do think it's a great idea. Fantastic for Daybreak or Wizards or whoever did it to try it.
Yeah.
Please carry on doing this, but please make it a thing. Like an actual thing. Not just
advertise it and push it.
Just not a random. I think it was like 5 lines in a Magic Online announcement blog.
Yeah.
Like
that no one reads because it's a Magic Online announcement blog.
So yeah, that's my gripe and that's my whinge over. I am excited for Modern Horizons. I'm happy PFP did what they did. I'm happy Daybreak did what they did. But yeah, please Daybreak, just advertise a bit more. I don't know how else I can explain it. Great job. Please execute slightly better next time. That's my only gripe. And that is it. Moving on to the challenges.
So the Friday challenge, which was on the 7th, 61 players. So a good healthy number of players again. I think it was 63 last week, 61 this week. So the Friday challenge really sticking at a quite a decent number of players. First place was Kuldotha. Second place was also Kuldotha. Third place was Colgate. Fourth was Tyrube or Cyclestorm. Fifth was Colgate. Sixth was Gardens Splash and Red. Seventh was Red Black Madness. And eighth was Blue Black Fair. And then the 2 near misses. Ninth was Grixis Affinity. And 10th was another third copy of Colgate. So as we sort of started to see last week, the trends continued this week of Colgate and Kuldotha are very good decks at the moment. A lot of people are playing them, and those percentage points are just converting. There's like that many people playing them; they're just all top 8 as well. A really good showing from Colgate there with 3 in the top 10, and then the double Kuldotha first and second as well is very impressive.
Yeah, I think it's sweet to see that obviously, even though they are very high played and generally the win rate's a bit sketchy for the whole weekend, like this Friday challenge definitely shows their strength. Not only have you got obviously Carves, who's an incredibly strong player anyways, hasn't been playing for a while, I don't think, in Pauper, but still just picks up Colgate, still does its thing and still doing really well. Double Kuldotha win. Interesting enough, the thing that I thought was interesting was the first place didn't run Lackey.
Yeah, so the first place deck is cut back more to a like pre-Lackey Kuldotha deck. It's still got a bunch of burning. It's got the 4 implements and the regular 16 creatures with 4 Bushwhacker, 4 Blast Runner. But then instead of the Lackey, it's just got an extra, a 1 of Fire Blast and 2 Goblin Grenades as well. So it's a lot heavier on the burn, or a lot. I guess it's more in line with the burn that we used to have, before Lackey and sort of before Tomb Raider as well, really. Whereas the second place list is more of what we've been seeing, where it is just the Gal Blast, Lightning Bolt, and Chain Lightning for burn.
Yeah, I can definitely see, like, there's definitely a reason why I imagine this deck does quite well. I do actually think, I personally think Lackey's actually not that great, but I don't play the deck enough. I've only played three-ish leagues with the deck, and it is interesting that there's some lists that are about cutting Lackey, and I can definitely see, I don't think that's incorrect completely, and there's definitely reasons for it, and I personally don't know if Goblin Grenade and Fire Blast would be my choice to replace Lackey with, but sweet to see that people are still playing it and still playing different lists.
It definitely gives it a lot more reach, the Goblin Grenade and the Fire Blast. Obviously tones down the early game a bit. You're obviously less likely to just go 1-drop creature into double 1-drop creature, giving you a cut 4 of them. But yeah, that the extra 2 5-point burn spells and a 4-point burn spell is a lot more reach in the burn department. And the Red Black Madness list, speaking of burn, is back again. Again, playing 3 highway robberies, so it took a little while, but it sort of seems like highway robberies here to stay in Red Black Madness. Yeah, which is cool. It's a nice tool, and it sort of really only applies to that deck. It's one of those cards that like there's no real reason to play it elsewhere, but when you are discarding stuff to Madness, it works really well. Like it just fits perfectly in the deck.
Yeah, definitely. Be interesting to see. I've seen people obviously talk about this Fairy, the snacker. Be interesting to see if this ends up just fitting straight into just a red black deck, not being able to cast it, which is interesting. I've seen a few people talk about that.
And right, and just going like up on highway robberies or that just type of effect and getting it for free.
Yeah,
interesting.
So, which is odd. I personally don't know if obviously we'll just have to wait and see what ends up happening with the deck. It definitely turns into more like a creature attacking deck. Obviously, if you're utilizing Snacker, Kitchen In, Ban Tomb Raider, as opposed to the card advantage from like Arms and the blood tokens and stuff. But sweet to see, and it's sweet to see. Like, I think it's probably gonna be like Highway Robbery if it does end up being that sort of in this sort of deck. It might take a while to see if it does get the traction to start being part of the deck, but we'll see. But definitely interesting that Highway Robbery's finally got here and it's definitely got some contenders in Modern Horizons 3 for sure. So yeah, only up.
It's sweet as well, just as a last thing, to see a deck that's been so influenced by essentially one set. Like with the 4 Jagged Barons and the 3 Highway Robberies, essentially from the last set.
Definitely.
It's cool to see that much impact being made on a single deck.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I mentioned for me is that obviously Grixis Affinity making it in 9th.
Yeah.
Just missing the mark, and it's not really too out of the ordinary, I guess. Its threats are a bit all over the spot. It's got some odd card choices overall. It's got like spell bombs instead of stars. It's got Gear Seekers as well as Kenkus. You know, it's a bit mental, but
I feel like Grixis Affinity is such a hard one to look at a list and evaluate because everything just looks sort of normal. But like when you look at the numbers in this, they're just all over the place. But it's like all cards that you see in Grixis Affinity, so it still sort of looks like Grixis Affinity.
Yeah.
But like 2/2 split of Galv down and Cast Blast. 2/2 split of Galv Blast and Cast Down is like just so odd. But you see both those cards in Affinity, so it just sort of looks a bit more normal. Singleton Extractor Confession as well, but no Tithing Blades. And then it's on the 12 draw spell package, which seems to like dip in and out. We're usually on 10, 11, or 12, somewhere between that.
Yeah.
But I think overall, like Grixis Affinity just hasn't really shown up as much as I expected it to.
Yeah. Definitely can agree that I always thought that if Grixis Affinity was going to show up, then there'll be a lot more representation of like anti-artifact decks, but it definitely hasn't. You kind of just got the Colgate that's sort of like semi-packing, and then after that it just doesn't show up as much for me.
Well, artifact 8 in general is still just pretty low, but the representation of Grixis Affinity again is just a lot lower than we expected when the Glitters ban was announced.
Definitely.
Like that Red Black Madness deck has 2 Gorilla Shams and a Cast Into the Fire, and that's basically it. The Gardens has triple Shaman and double Oof, given its splash in the red. Even the Colgate has nothing, right? The 5th place Colgate has nothing.
No. It's got you're hoping for Red Elemental Blast and Relics, I guess. And the 3rd place Carves list literally has 2 Gorilla Shamans.
Yeah, so like people just aren't really packing the hate, but it's also just still not really showing up.
No, not as much. It's like obviously it's still here, but it's just not showing up definitely anywhere
Yeah,
near that what we thought it was going to be. It was definitely
yeah.
I probably thought it was probably in the position where Colgate is in these general last few challenges, where it's taken 2 to 3 places in a top 8, but clearly not the case.
And I guess last thing for me is obviously just the obligatory shout out to Tyrube for just basically being the only person that maintains Cycle Storm is a legitimate deck in pauper.
Yeah.
Continues to do well with it, but no one else really does anything with it.
Yep. Yeah, the list hasn't changed at all.
No.
Not even the sideboard.
I'll be interested to see when the MH3 cards come out if it changes to include the new fetch lands instead of Ash Barrens. Although the cycling on them's worse, so I guess it maybe won't.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
They are better to play. It's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah, because you do end up playing Ash Barrens a fair bit. Well, when I've played the list and done terribly with it, you do end up playing Ash Barrens.
Maybe that's the reason.
That's the reason.
You played your Ash Barrens. It's like, no, you never play the Ash Barrens.
But yeah, I know what you mean. Like, it definitely could see a slot in there. Like, but obviously, Tyrube's particular list runs the other colours in the sideboard. So like you're gonna have to give up either getting the forest or getting the
right, okay,
mountain as well.
It's 4 colour rather than 3. Yeah.
It's a real strange one, but I don't know. You might be right. Definitely an interesting one.
Sweet. Moving on to the Saturday challenge.
Yeah.
So Saturday the 8th, slightly less players than the Friday with 50 players. First place was Jeskai Wildfire. Second place was Colgate. Third place, making a return, was Bogles. I think the first Bogles deck we've seen since Glitters was banned.
Yes. I think so.
Fourth place was Dredge. Fifth was Kuldotha. Sixth was Blue Black Fair. Seventh was Mogwarts. And eighth was Colgate. And then the 2 near misses, Black Red Madness, here once again, and another copy of Dredge.
Back once again with the Renegade Master. Sorry.
I guess, the first thing for me, as I sort of already mentioned, Bogles making a return. Glitters Gorn hasn't killed Bogles, it is still there.
Shock.
Obviously, sort of had cut down on Glitters anyway. When it was initially added to the format, it was just sort of jammed in as an auto 4 of. And then people sort of came to the conclusion that you didn't really want 4, and it ended up as like a 2 of. So yeah, just the two glitters have cut essentially, I think, in this list for a Sentinel's Eyes and a Lifelink in the main. And I think it's ticked up on lands slightly as well to include a Calny Garden at the cost of a couple of Commune with Spirits. But yes, it's all sweet to see Bogles doing well. Nothing particularly out of the norm, just sort of a reaction or a regeneration of the list after it's lost glitters, I guess. Another deck that just doesn't care about artifacts. It just runs no artifact haste.
I guess the only thing I notice is they're on the full 12 hexproof threats.
But, 4 Ledgewalkers.
But I'm assuming that's probably because I don't actually know why, but I guess they're cutting down on communes, so you can't hit anything, you can't put anything awkwardly at the bottom or whatever. I don't know. I actually don't know why they would go to the extra ones, but it seems to be a common, like, it's an inclusion now. I don't really know. Maybe the format's slowing down enough that they can run a 2-mana dude, or I have absolutely no idea. But interesting to me. And that's the only thing that stands out to me for this list. Like the Sentinel's Eyes is, I don't think there's anything,
Yeah, they're all tools that have been in and out of Bogles before.
Yeah.
The real, I guess, like you are right there. The real change is the 4th Ledgewalker and the 1 of Calny Garden instead of 2 Commune Spirits.
Interesting, for sure. I guess, have we seen Tamio's Safekeeping in the sideboard before? But
pass. I've seen the card played before. I can't remember if it was in Bogles or not. It is an interesting one, like being able to give not just your Bogle indestructible, but like your ancestral mask indestructible, like Hexproof and indestructible.
Yeah.
Quite a cool like techie piece.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
The fourth place dredge list as well. I don't know if you've had a look at this one. Is quite interesting. It's sort of what we've come to know as like a stock dredge list. But has cut 2 Acorn Harvests for 2 Writhing Necromas. In the main, which is a 7-mana 5/5 Death Touch that costs 1 less for each creature in your graveyard, so it ends up being like a black for a 5/5 Death Touch. Which is quite a cool card. Normally in Tortured Existence, right? But I haven't seen it in Dredge before.
No, I think I remember seeing it a deck with a Dredge list with some amount of Necromasses, 5/0'd. I don't know how. I don't think it was many. I do think it was probably like 1 or 2, and I'm guessing that's probably where the inspirations probably come from. I'm intrigued on how it would actually perform because it's a card that doesn't really. It's sort of like similar to Exhume. It doesn't really do much if it's not in your like opener because you don't generally tend to get much card utility or card selection after that. You're just milling shit.
Yeah.
So
I guess it sort of adds to the Exhume plan where it's just like the game. I guess all the like the deck runs no squirrel card. I forgot its name.
Acorn
I've just said it.
Harvest.
Acorn Harvest. It runs no Acorn Harvest at all.
Mm.
So it's not really got that combo piece. So a lot of the time you are just going to be exhuming big bombs. I guess this is sort of a exhume 6, 5, and 6 really. Or attempt to be exhume 5 and 6, where it's just a really cheap big threat. And obviously you can just sack it. Like you can play it as a guy and then sack it and 2 other guys to your dread return for your Lotleth Giant late game. But it's an interesting way to build the deck. To be fair, the Acorn Harvests I found playing Dredge were always either really good or really awful. I ended up cutting 1 anyway because I thought 3 was too many, so I cut mine to 2. But this list running none, I could see that being the way Dredge moves forward. Like you always end up with a bunch of little guys kicking about anyway. The Acorn Harvest just gives you that like nice out for like a bit of a combo turn.
Yeah. Interesting to see if it does start seeing more play. But I guess considering this pilot is featured further down with a different-ish list, I believe. We'll probably see that it was tried, did okay, and probably not touched again.
Yeah, well, yeah, 4th is pretty solid for a challenge, to be fair. 2 Ray of Revelation in the sideboard as well, which is something that obviously was played when Glitters was a thing and then sort of disappeared. Interesting to see it back. Obviously, there's a Bogles. I can't really imagine it's for that matchup, though. I'm not sure if you're au fait to what it's sort of targeted for. It seems like a bit of an odd choice nowadays.
Makeshift munitions. That's about it, but I don't really think I care about that. But that's the only card that springs to my mind as an enchantment that's worth blowing up. The Modern Age, I don't know.
But, no rest in peace in Porthos. It's not massively clear.
Moving on, I guess, speaking of Modern Age, to be fair, the second place Corgate list, the Character list, is on Dawnbringer Cleric and not Outlaw Medic.
Yeah. Switching back.
What about Journey? Journey probably is reasonable to Ray of Revelation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, fair. That's fair.
I guess.
Character also just not hating on the artifacts. This doesn't really care about Grixis Finny.
Nope. Yeah, I think probably Pyro does enough, right? And Relic. I don't know. I guess.
And then the last thing I've got noted down here is Kirby. Kirby's back, playing in challenges and doing well.
Yes.
I feel like we haven't seen him forever.
Yes, I believe he has been playing in challenges, just not particularly doing well. I think the last time I seen he played. Was it what was the event? Not not last week or the week before. I'm sure he played like Gate Bogles or something like that.
All right, okay.
and I seen him in the like 40s or 50s or something. And I was like, still here. But nice to see him.
It's following your inspiration of Mogwart is by far the best deck in the format. I don't know if you've got the numbers to hand, but I'm pretty sure like the win rate for Mogwarts this weekend was stupid as well, like really high.
So the win rate for Mogwart, where is it? Just moving up. It is Goblin class combo was 64% on the challenges with 3 pilots.
Yeah, I guess that is sort of skewed by only being 3 pilots, but also all 3 of those pilots to have a 64% win ratio must have went off.
Oh no, it's 65% with 4 people. So
right.
Still.
But yeah, still to have that high of a win rate is pretty mental. Yes. And the deck does just look really good right now.
Best deck in pauper.
I guess this is a sort of a weird take with the Goblin Sledder. I'm not sure if I've seen that before or how commonplace that is.
It's not that common, but it's more of it's like a stream of thought in Ultratron. It's like a Magic Online inclusion. It's
like a fast win.
Yeah, it's a lot less click intensive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's just an out. So instead of getting Dark Duel Oracle, you can get the Sledder and win that way. Yeah, it sort of also kind of gets round strands quicker as well. In like you need only find a second putrid goblin and you can kind of make it massive. But yeah, it's a bit. Yeah, I do like it. Obviously for Magic Online, if you do think you are gonna time out.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't probably include it in a list that I was like testing or anything. But so what you saying?
I guess it has some like weird synergy with like your Clan Shaman and like Impulsive Pilfer and stuff like that as well. Just like making your own stuff survive a Clan or activating your Impulsive Pilfers. But yeah, it does make sense that that's just a fast Magic Online win con.
But it's got to say that he decided to play the best deck. Always good. Always good.
A win ratio like that, I'm sort of starting to agree with you as well.
Like originally, you could probably agree it was all Hamuda, I think.
Yeah.
But there's more people.
Now it's not.
Yeah. Now there's other people. Like obviously Kirby this week. Last week was someone else. You know, the deck's just strong, and I think I'll say this until it decides to be a bad deck. People just always underestimate it. Like, it's alright. I've got a counter spell up, and that can't die. And then they die.
As easy as that.
Yeah, as easy as that.
Anything else to mention on this challenge?
No, I don't think so. That's double top 8 for Baker, right? With Blue Black Fair. Obviously saw him making a pseudo resurgence.
Yeah.
Changed his list a little bit up on the full 4 Fairy Seer. I don't know if that's due to Glitters being banned or if it's just a change in the list in general. Definitely ended up cutting the Extractor Confession from the Glitters days. Made it into the sideboard. But yeah.
I feel like Blue Black Fair is sort of a similar thing to Mogwarts now, where it's if it's Baker, it's really good, and if it's anyone else, it's just not there.
Yeah.
Because it has, from what it was when Glitters was sort of kicking off, Blue Black Fair was like the go-to second deck.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like you see it occasionally, but like as a one-of in a top 10.
Yeah. But you wouldn't. So the interesting thing for me is you wouldn't think, looking at these challenges, that it was the 3rd most played deck.
No.
Like, because it's literally just Baker on a Friday, Baker on a Saturday, and then that's sort of it.
Yeah. Just not a good conversion rate.
No. Yeah, that's about
moving on.
Yeah.
So we had a Saturday super qualifier as well. That we're going to go over now before the Sunday challenge. It was on, obviously, also on the 8th of June, with 203 players.
Woo!
Which is pretty big for Pauper, and won by none other than Ponza.
Best deck.
First place, Ponza, in a 200-person event. Very, very cool to see. Second place, Colgate. Third place, making another return, Bogles.
Woo!
Deck is back. Fourth place, Grixis Affinity. Fifth place, Flickertron. Sixth place, Blue Black Fair. Seventh, Colgate. Eighth, Borosynth. And then the two near misses. Ninth was Hybrid Walls. And 10th was Jeskai Wildfire. I guess the first thing for me is this looks like a great send-off to pre-MH3 Pauper. Like, basically every deck is unique apart from the double Colgate. Yeah, so nine unique decks in a top 10 of a 200-odd person tournament.
Yeah.
You've got aggro, you've got control, you've got sort of control-y combo as well with the Flickertron. Yeah, and I guess the hybrid walls sort of sideboards into combo if it wants to. Yeah, really sweet challenge on really sweet super qualifier.
Yeah, I think the thing that I really do like generally of bigger events that for us of the past, Pauper format, it always makes it look like this. The challenges will generally start, get a bit skewed sometimes. Like especially when we had the Sunday double Q challenges. You skewed the Sunday and it looked like it was an aggro, aggro everywhere or whatever. But like the bigger events always seem to just highlight decks that we haven't seen for a while, and also just have a large amount of variant decks in them. Like you just like I say, you've got 9 unique decks in the top 10. That's mental.
Yeah, really good.
Pauper is in a great place. Know your deck, know it well, and you will crush.
For the next 10 minutes.
No, it'll always
until Mon Horizons comes up.
No, but it'll be the same. Don't worry. We're spreading
love.
Yeah,
I do agree with you there. It's sort of something that I feel is true of Pauper more than it is of basically every other format. If you just specialize on one deck, even if that deck is not like classed as like T1, it's not Cold Author, it's not Colgates, it's not Grixis Affinity. If you know that deck, you play it really well, and you just know the Pauper metagame, you'll do really well. Like the Bogles decks, like if you'd paid me money to guess what would have been in this top 8 of this qualifier, I wouldn't have said Bogles.
No.
But it's just a deck that can just crush. If you know the matchups, you know what you're doing. You can just run a field with Bogles.
100%.
Or any deck.
Do we want to touch on the fact that Ponza actually won and is not the Scred list? Is Crimson Fleet Commodore for the eyeballs and running 2 Reclaiming Vines as well? Like we seen not last week, the week before, I believe.
Yeah. So it seems to be becoming a bit more of the norm at the moment. Is the Scredless Ponza. Essentially, you cut the 3 Screds and run 3 more useful cards. This time it's a Commodore and then 2 Reclaiming Vines, as Teasdale mentioned. I think that was the same last week, right?
Yeah. Or whenever it top 10. Was it last week or the week before? Yeah.
Well, I think we've seen it a couple times now, just like being Scredless. And it does seem to just work out. It's sort of like this, a similar game plan to the Hybrid Walls decks, where it's just like mana ramp plus bombs will get me there.
Yeah.
This year again, mana ramp plus bombs and Ponza cards. It doesn't even run like the Screds in the sideboard. Again, it's just sort of, I don't need pinpoint removal at the moment. There is no one threat that I want to kill, so I just will ignore them.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a strong deck. It's definitely got a high variance for sure. Out of probably most of these decks in the, maybe not Bogles. It's pretty close, but it's definitely a strong deck that can definitely just tear through an event, especially if Colgate is expected to be one of the bigger decks, which I'm assuming they versed quite a lot of Colgate, as it was 15% of the super qualifier.
I also figured out the do you know we're seeing the cannonade, like the one-off cannonade in the Tron deck.
Oh yeah.
Like last week or the week before,
Yeah.
and then this deck also has the one-off Cannonade.
Yeah.
I seen Mogflunk his tweet,
Uh-huh.
and he basically said it's because breath weapons are 10 ticks each, and he didn't want to buy another.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
So I assume that's the same case for the Tron list, where you got, I think, 2 breath weapons for free, right?
Yeah.
When they did all the cards.
Yeah.
So if you want 2 more breath weapons, it's 20 ticks, which is a bit ridiculous for pauper.
It's quite funny because I have 3.
Yes. So if you want to run it, you run 1 Cannonade.
Do you know what they need? They need to go on Mana Traders and check out my coupon code and rent it. There you go. That's what I do.
What's the code? T-Still MTG.
Changes. Got to check out every video and be current.
Oh, there you go.
What it is. So check out my latest video and then do it.
Where he runs 3 breath weapons and 1 fiery Cannonade because he doesn't have 4 breath weapons.
But yeah, quite amusing, really.
Yeah, it's a funny one.
Yeah, you would have thought that would have been widely available because obviously they give everyone 2. So
yeah.
But then I guess people who...
I mean, like Goldbots have loads of stock, but they're just 10 ticks each.
Yeah, it just seems strange to me because obviously the basically, as I said, they give every account 2. So you would have thought that people would have sold them by now and they would have been like widely available, but they didn't have to be 10 ticks each, but you know, whatever.
But I guess it is becoming pretty commonplace in a lot of pauper decks now as well. True. Like between the main and side, like most red decks, other than say Kuldotha, are playing a copy or 2 in the side, just as answers. So I guess the more common it becomes, the less they're gonna just be, or the more expensive it'll be. Like we're getting stuff like Corgates and stuff playing breath weapons in the side.
Yeah.
The hybrid walls deck, I think, used to play breath weapons. I think Appar's... Oh no, you still got 1 in the side. So they're just like a bunch of random decks that just have breath weapons in. But yeah, it's a shame it's that expensive.
Yeah. I guess touching on the Corgates deck, the second place was the first one that has 4 Dust to Dusts in.
Yeah.
So yeah, finally got there. But then the next one didn't run any. The 7th place list doesn't have any artifact date again. Yeah.
The Corgate player, the one with 4 Dust to Dusts in, also just didn't play against the Grixis Affinity in the top 8 either.
Oh well. Good job they had them in the board, I guess.
Yeah. I guess someone else we haven't seen in a while are Clint. On Tron, as usual. I'm not sure if there's much particularly new about this Flickertron list. It looks to me very much like the teachings pile that is Flickertron.
Yes.
1 runaway boulder seems to be a mainstay nowadays, which I know you like quite a lot.
Yes, I'm a big fan of runaway boulder in Tron.
I guess a 1-of conduit pylons is a bit of a new addition.
Yeah. That's about the only thing, right? Is what they went from 2 instead of 2 captivating caves or something. They went to like 1/1.
Yeah. And another deck that plays breath weapon.
Yes. Well, you might as well. It's free, isn't it? Zamu on Fear.
Yeah.
Again, also quite odd because Zamu was the Boros Glitters guy, and then when Boros Glitters became mainstay, they moved to Fear. And then now they've just sort of played Fair ever since. Yeah. Sweet. Not on the same list as Baku. They're on 3 Fairy Seers. The Extractor Confessions in the main still. Looks sort of like an old Baku list, but again, wouldn't be surprised. Deck is strong and fake and fair people.
Yeah, but yeah, a really sweet qualifier overall. It's good to see, like, even when you scroll down, the decks are still pretty varied. To the point where I think 16th place, the last deck I want to touch on, is Jordan SCU. Playing, obviously, the Immolating Soul Eater double strike pile.
Yes.
Which has just come 16th in a 200-person event. Which is class to see. for anyone who hasn't seen this deck, it's sort of like a Kiln Fiend type deck. Runs 4 Kiln Fiends. Also runs 4 Immolate and Soul Eater, which is a 2-mana 1/1 that you can pay a red or 2 life, like a Phyrexian red, to give it +1/+0 until end of turn. So the idea is you play that guy on turn 1 because you're playing Simian Spirit Guide, and then just pay a bunch of life in, pay 18 life into it, and then give it double strike and kill your opponent.
And when all your opponents are going Seagate Go, it's usually a pretty good going. And
yeah, especially with the Simian Spirit Guides and the one of Lotus Battle, like you just play it on turn 1, they play a tap land, they're like, I've just lost.
Yeah. Sweet deck, to be fair. I also do love if you do play a lot of leagues, you'll probably end up versing into the Jordan Blitz quite a lot, to be fair. It's usually the only person on this deck, and definitely just has a wild mental game. Usually ends up attacking me with a Simian Spirit Guide with like 3 Fury the bitten on, to be fair. But, you know. But I also, the one card I do like to point out is Singeing the sideboard. Just that card is so funny.
It feels like a weird one when one of your best guys is a 1/1, but yeah, I sort of get it.
Yeah.
Weird snuff out protection be weird.
Yeah. Just can't run like, any more other type of protection spells. Just we've just got Singe.
Yeah.
I guess. But
yeah, I guess you're already loaded up on Apostle's Blessings, right?
Yeah.
And you're not playing white, so.
But yeah, sweet. Always courtesy. I do also like that the sort of other strategy it has with the Crusaders and the Hoplites, and just go all mono red heroic. It is a fun deck, and it's sort of I always say this is like the Tyru with his Cycle Storm. Like, this is a one pilot deck. You can have fun with it, sure. I do. Can't play it for shit, but I have fun with it. But sweet to see. That's all from me. I guess we've got to shout out Paz for the unlucky 9th, I guess. I think he said it was just unlucky breakers, or ended up mulligan to Oblivion in the last round or something. Pretty unfortunate, but good showing for Walls regardless.
Yeah, he's really been grinding with this Walls deck as well. It's cool to see it sort of evolve and put out really good results like that.
Definitely.
So moving on to the last challenge, which is the Sunday 64. 69 players, so a decent showing again.
Nice number.
Yeah. First place was Grixis Affinity. Second was Blue Black Terror. Third was Gardens. Fourth was Kuldotha. Fifth was Mono Blue Terror. Sixth was Grixis Affinity. Seventh was Dredge. Eighth was Gardens. And then the 2 near misses. Ninth was Mogwart. And 10th was another copy of Grixis Affinity. So it's definitely the Grixis Affinity challenge.
Yes.
Sort of didn't really. It showed up as like a one-off elsewhere, and then just 3 copies in one challenge. And a 64 challenge as well, so a pretty high player count challenge. So interesting to see it just go from 0 to hero real quick.
Yeah, Ocean Soul taking down the sort of win is pretty nice. Obviously, used to play Blue White Glitters a lot before, obviously, Glitters got banned. And then now putting his free 0 mana artifacts to good use and jamming it in Grixis Affinity. Sweet version, like, list as well. Like, I don't hate this list. I do like high numbers of Crackland Shamans. I like the fact that it just go aggro with the 4 Frog Mites as well.
Yeah, it's sort of a lot cleaner on the creature package and the like random artifact package with just 3 Blood Fountains, 3 Stars, and 4 Wellsprings.
Yeah.
On 12 as again 12 draw 2s.
Yeah.
And then basically like the only flex is like a Cast Down and a Metallic Rebuke. Everything else is just pretty like 4 off. Which is cool.
Yeah. Blue Black Terror's first appearance this weekend. With O'Daniel sort of coming in second.
It seems like its first appearance in a while. Like, I just haven't been seeing that much Blue Black Terror at all.
No, it's not really there, to be fair, in pretty low numbers.
We've seen a lot of Mono Blue last week. Didn't really see any Mono Blue this week, apart from the 5th place in this Sunday challenge. But Blue Black's just been like completely absent.
Yeah. Definitely. It seems like a fairly stock list. I think O'Daniel generally plays this when they do play pauper. I believe they are very similar, just like an all format grinder generally. So they occasionally just dabble in pauper and generally are on terror, and they do fairly decently, usually in the top 16 somewhere. But list doesn't look too far out of what we'd expect. You know, the one-off crawl's pretty nice.
Have you looked at the sideboard?
Yeah, a bunch of one-offs. That's all you need is one, right?
It's just all one-offs and then 4 Hydroblasts, 2-0.
What else do you need?
It's a very odd sideboard. I've not really seen Blue Black Terror just play this pile of one-offs before. Even to the point it's like 1 Murmur Mystic, 1 Thorn.
Yeah.
And then like 1 Arms, 1 Drowning Sorrow. It's very, very interesting. 1 Shrivel as well.
Because you only need 1, and then they have to play around the other 3 copies you could have once you find the 1. That's it. That's the secret. 16 lands as well. I think the last few lists that we have seen have went back to like 17, 18, but still sticking with the 16 lands. But again, the time difference between us seeing one Blue Black Terror list to the others fairly infrequently. Interestingly enough, I guess the Gardens list, there's double Gardens top 8. Both of them were not red, right?
Both... the third, as someone who doesn't play Gardens, the third place one stood out a bit to me. Mainly because the mana base is just 13 Swamps, 4 Calendly Garden, 1 Haunted Mire. And I feel like Gardens is usually like on like 7 different like random lands.
Yeah, I think...
it just looked like a very tight or condensed mana base to what I'm normally seeing.
Yeah, I think as of late, with most of them running red as well, like it definitely has. There's quite a few like random numbers because usually you have like 1 or 2 Haunted Mire, 1 of the Geothermal Bog, then sometimes you have a Witch's Cottage, sometimes you've got Paducah Bogs.
Even like compared to the one in 8th place, which is also just straight green black, like there's a 1 of Rock Farm, there's a 1 of Paducah Bog, there's a 1 of Witch's Cottage. It's just interesting to see none of those.
Yeah. It is an odd one. I guess they're just trying to maximize their defiles as much as they can. But I'm even surprised to be fair by the only 1 of Haunted Mire, to be fair. Pretty low in general. Even the numbers are fairly odd as well. Like you've got the 1 Blood Fountain, the 1 Star, 1 Lembus, no Campfires, 1 Snuff Out. The list's sort of like clean but odd at the same time. Strange.
Yeah.
Numbers are a bit odd. Like 2 Avenging Hunter, no Campfire. Seems odd to me. Like usually if you're not running Campfire, you're quite high on Avenging Hunter because you kind of want to find it. Cumbage Riches in the side. Again, odd card choices. But seems to work out. Obviously coming third.
I guess the Troll probably carries the mana fixing after sideboard quite a lot. Obviously there's not many green sources then to like board in. We've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 green cards in the sideboard. Obviously they don't all come in at once, but there just doesn't seem like a lot of green sources. But I guess when you add in the Deadly Disputes as well on top of the Trolls, 1 Chromatic Star as well, bit of a weird one.
Odd, like whatever, I guess. But I personally don't get it. I can't even understand why you would have a Chromatic Star over anything else. Like why would you have a 6th Lembus? Or a
Fix your green mana.
Like, sure, I guess. But
yeah, it's cool to see like just an evolved garden list, I guess. Like evolved in a different way. A lot of the time when they're not splashing different colours, they look very similar. But this one in particular just stood out to me as very different looking to a normal gardens list.
It's definitely an odd one, and there's definitely some odd choices in there. But overall, I think the actual choices of the cards aren't doing too much to the deck. Like that's the difference between the stars, probably not that impactful. However, I imagine the threats is probably where it's got a bit weird. Like you've only got 1 Blood Fountain and 2 Avenger Hunters, and 2 Crypt Rats. So like there'll probably be games where they lose because they actually don't have enough threats.
Just got to hard cast those trolls.
But which again then is even weirder because they seem very reliant on your green source because you've got 1 Haunted Mire and 4 Troll. Like, just all round seems like odd. But it's obviously worked out for them. They did come in third. Gardens do garden things, I guess. What was the dredge list that came in 7th? So this was the same pilot who had the Rider Necromass in.
Yeah, Lolo Polo 2001.
Yeah.
It's obviously doesn't run the Necromass, but is also trying something different with a flaring pain in the main. I'm assuming that's a nod to the amount of Corgate that's seeing play at the moment. Obviously works against other stuff as well, but the main card is obviously Prismatic Strands. Back on 2 Acorn Harvests instead of the Necromass.
Up to 4 Lotleth as well.
I guess what's the other cut? The cut 1 Rubber Belt Maverick for the Flaring Pain, and then the 2 Necromass for the Acorn Harvest.
Yeah. Cool to try something new. I imagine the Flaring Pain is probably pretty useful, especially if there is a lot of.
Gives you a bit more sideboard space as well if you are not feeling the 4 Mavericks are necessary. The 2 rare revelations still there as well. Just still feels weird to me.
Really hates Journey.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
It's the only I can think of.
But yeah, it's cool to see Dredge still sort of developing, like tweaking little things and doing well. Conduit Pylons, again, is now just a mainstay of this deck. It's surprising how much Outlaws actually has added to the format. Like when we first looked at it, we were like, "Oh, this is like 2 cards, maybe."
Yeah.
But it seems to have just impacted a lot of decks in like weird ways.
Yeah, it's definitely had more impact than I thought. But it is just small. Like it is small changes which turn out to like Dredge is probably one of the bigger ones where you've ended up changing the way the list works due to the land. Because you've obviously gained like Rubble Belt Maverick as well because it's so much like easier to run. Like it wasn't from Outlaws, but because of the Conduit Pylon, you can run less tap lands, which means you can have a 1-drop and all that sort of stuff. Like that sort of logic I like, but like it has obviously impacted the format in little ways with like the Outlaw Medic and things like that. Cool to see.
Anything else on this?
I guess my only thing I touch on is the 9th place Mogwarts pilot was it last week's pilot that ended up not being Hamuda.
All right, okay.
Same pilot. So we're still seeing some non-Hamuda players do well with Mogwarts, showcasing yet again.
Hamuda's really close to Mogwarts. He's in 10th with Cruxus Vinny.
Yes. They must have rolled the dice this week, and between Luffy, Bako, and Hamuda, all decided, we're playing Luffy's deck or something, even though Luffy will be on Gardens anyways. So, yeah. Glad to see he's trying something new, but would have won if they obviously picked Mogwarts. Maybe it just needs a break. Maybe that's what it is. Just giving people a chance to win challenges. The only thing I've got to touch on is interesting numbers from Kirblinxy's data. So for those that don't know, please follow Kirblinxy because every Monday they tweet out the data for the weekend. And also if there's a big event on, they do a separate table. So, for example, this week they did the Super Qualifier. To no one's surprise that Kuldotha and Corgates were the top 2 decks with 36 pilots on Kuldotha in the qualifier, 29 for Corgates. Kuldotha yet again having a negative win rate, but quite bad in the qualifier, which I'm not surprised that it's that and Corgates probably has a target on the head. It had a 45% win rate overall. And then Corgate just squeezing in with a 56% win rate. But those 2 decks are just over 30% of the metagame. The interesting thing is for the qualifier is that Ponza was the 3rd most played deck with 16 pilots. But even though it took home the whole entire thing, it had a win rate of 44%. Which is surprising to me.
Not great conversion for Ponza.
No. Interestingly enough, for the meta over the weekend for the pauper challenge, is that the top 4 decks was Kuldotha, Corgates, Blue Black Fate, and Affinity. Kuldotha with 28 pilots, which is just shy of 16% of the meta. 18 pilots for Corgates with just 10% of the meta. Demir Fair or Blue Black Fair on 15%. 15 pilots, sorry, on 8%, and then Affinity was 14 pilots on 7%. Basically the top two decks, Colgate and Kuldotha, both had negative win rates the whole entire weekend of sub 50%.
Yeah, it makes sense. They were sort of fairly obvious, or fairly obviously the decks to gun for.
Yeah.
Over the last probably 2 to 3 weeks, to be honest. So it makes sense that people are now aiming for them. Yeah, interesting.
I guess the surprising thing for me is that Blue Black Fair went from basically being nowhere last week. So the last week's challenge, it was 7 pilots at 3% of the meta with a 44% win rate. And then this week it is 15 pilots, so over like doubled.
Yeah, double. Yeah.
And got a 53% win rate.
Yeah,
still
nice.
not great like that, like 53%, obviously you're pretty close to like a 50-50 win rate. 46 wins, 41 losses, like pretty close, but still obviously a good good rate for it to just all of a sudden see a lot of play, I guess.
Yeah, a big increase from the low 40s as well, though.
Yeah. The only thing I want to mention that is basically the highest win rate of the top 4 was Affinity, with a just shy of 58% win rate, which is pretty good to see, and it's, I guess, probably carried by this challenge with the double top 8 and triple in the top 10.
Yeah.
So it is still a deck. The lists are very, very different. Well, I say very different. The cores are still the same, but the way they win is generally slightly different. I recommend at least packing some dust to dust and not ignoring it like people have been doing. Especially since though this week and the next challenge will be affected by Modern Horizons 3. So expect to see your refurbished familiars. Probably. Anything else?
No, do you want to move on to shout outs if you've got any?
Yeah, just general shout outs, I guess, this week. Already shouted out, but shout again, Kirblinxy for the data. Obviously, it's a great piece of data to have. And amazing for us to utilise and just see. So if you guys want to see it and check along, obviously you can follow him on Twitter. He just posts it every week. And then finally, shout out to all the grinders we've mentioned. They are obviously killing it, doing well in challenges, and makes our podcast recording very, very unique and fun and interesting.
Yeah.
So great to see. Hot takes?
So our hot takes from last week. My first one was that next week we'll mix it up again. We won't see a top 8 with Mono Blue Terra, Kuldotha, and Colgate. After all the top 8s last week featured all 3 of those decks.
Yeah.
So this week basically Terra was gone. There was obviously that one in the Sunday challenge. But yeah, so we had 2 top 8s with Kuldotha and Colgate, 1 top 8 with just Colgate, and 1 top 8 with Terra and Kuldotha. So very different from last week.
Yeah, I think another thing to touch on, it was the second most played deck last week. Mono Blue Terra with 20 pilots, just under Colgate at 22 pilots, and now it's like it's 11 pilots with 6% of the meta.
Yeah, so 50% less.
Yeah. So it's one of them decks that people don't like to put it on the block and, twice in a week because they'll just get hated out. It's a very hateable deck with obviously relics and all the pyro effects. So makes sense. My next one is that Ponzo will pick up next week, which it did generally. There was 10 pilots last weekend. There was 12 this, so it had like a little bit of an uptick, but then 16 in the qualifier, and obviously ended up winning the qualifier.
Yeah. Really good result there.
Real good. Colgate is everywhere. Pack your Ponza. So my recommendation.
My last one from last week was that Colgate and Kuldotha would start a battle to become the 2 most played decks. Basically moving Mono Blue Terra out the way, which basically dropped off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Although Blue Black Fair has sort of risen up, as you mentioned then. But yeah, otherwise, Kuldotha and Corgates are still very highly played.
Yes, very, very much so. The only suggestion that Kirby tweeted out was that basically the Colgate's pilot shifted to Demir Fair because they were sick of us in the mirror. Seems like a fair and reasonable take, I guess.
Scared of Ponza.
Yeah, all that. My final one is that Blue-Black Fair will rise in popularity to combat the Mono Blue Terror. So what we just seen is that Mono Blue Terror just fell off the face of the earth instead.
Yeah.
We did have an increase in Blue-Black Terror by like a pilot, I guess, but not to the point. It did top 8, so there is that, but I don't think it's risen in popularity and taken over the world just yet. Hot takes for next week?
Yeah. My first one is that Bogles will return again in the lull before basically MH3. Usually we see, obviously the MH3 cards are legal for the next challenges, but we tend to see like basically old favourite decks all still see play in the next challenges, and then the week after we see what's actually happening with MH3. Assuming that's still the case, I expect Bogles will be back.
Yeah, it makes sense that we get the quite late on a Tuesday, so it's not out the question that people just don't have enough time to test these decks and don't want to dive right into a challenge. So then people just pick up what they see fit.
And some of the stuff's like quite expensive.
Yeah, and that too. So I wouldn't be surprised. My next one is that Colgate will not be in the top 5 most played decks next week. So it's probably a wild claim and a very, very wild claim, but I'm going on double measures here. So say if nobody plays any Modern Horizons 3 cards or like a deck that Modern Horizons 3 makes, people will be hating on Colgate. So people will try and avoid playing Colgate. And then if they do play the Modern Horizons 3 deck cards, like no one's playing Colgate if that's the case because everyone wants to try the new stuff. So this is my claim. It probably isn't going to happen, but I'm going with it.
I've just gone for a basically complete opposite bold claim of Colgate will win 2 out of 3 challenges next week. I guess it could also not be the top 5 most players deck and still win 2 out of 3 challenges. Yeah. They could both be true.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely seems like one of the best decks at the moment. It is slowly getting hated out, so my claim is probably the least likely one to occur, but it's still a very good deck.
But you could also go far and say that people could be predicting the Affinity hate for next week with the new Affinity toys. So then they all
diving on dust to dust decks.
Yeah, and then leave the Colgate hate at home. And Colgate comes in with the 4 dust to dusts. Could happen. Very easily happen. My next one is probably going to be a hard one to actually track, but but I guess we'll just base it on the most played decks that contain it. But anyways, we'll figure it out. My last hot take is the most played card next week will be Refurbished Familiar.
Well, I imagine the most played card will probably be like Basic Mountain
right? No.
Given every Kuldotha deck has 16 and whatever.
Nope. Most played non-land card.
Yeah.
But
it's an interesting one. I think it's very likely to be the most played new card from MH3.
Yeah.
Just because it seems the easiest to just jam into a bunch of decks and not really change anything. Like you just get a Black-White Blade list and put 4 of these in, or you just get a Grixis Affinity list and put 4 of these in. Which sort of goes with what you were saying before about people not having time to test and stuff like that. Like you don't really have to test it. Obviously, it's good. But yeah, most played card overall is a hard one to see.
Yeah. Obviously, it could be tied. Could be tied with Mer Enforcer or.
Well, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
But yeah, it all depends. But I do think it'll definitely be the most played new card for sure. Unless we're gonna get all surprised by everyone's just broken the game with like Sneaky Snacker or Thraben Charms really high in the sideboards, I guess. But yeah, be interesting to see. Refurbished Familiar is definitely a card to keep your eye on.
Definitely very good.
Honest. it's not hard to tell that, but yeah. Anything else?
No, that's it from me.
So, guys, thank you all for listening to our amazing podcast, if we do say ourselves. If you would like to share it with your friends, your family, your local pauper community, and even your toad wrangler, whatever the hell that is.
That's no wrangles toads.
Obviously. Why did we? Why did I not think of that? But if you have enjoyed it, please do not forget to share it with your friends. And that is all from us at Cast and Comments. Until next time, and do not forget to stay hydrated. Peace!
Bye.